The Battle of Mutah, also known as the Expedition of Mutah, was a battle that took place in the town of Mutah in the Karak Governorate of Jordan in Jamada al-Awwal of the 8th year of the Hijrah, August 629 AD. It was fought between the Muslim army on one side and the Romans and Ghassanids on the other. Many historical sources agree that the reason for the battle was the killing of Al-Harith ibn Umar al-Azdi by Shurabil ibn Amr al-Ghassani. Al-Harith had been sent by the Prophet Muhammad with a letter to the king of Basra, inviting him to Islam. The battle is considered to be the first major engagement fought by the Muslims outside the Arabian Peninsula. In it, 3,000 Muslim fighters stood firm against 200,000 Romans and their allied Arab tribes for 6 full days. The battle ended on the 7th day after the army commander, Khalid ibn al-Walid, executed a successful tactical retreat with minimal losses. In this battle, the 3 Muslim commanders chosen by the Prophet Muhammad to lead the fighting were killed in succession: Zayd ibn Harithah, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, and Abdullah ibn Rawahah. Background: after the defeat of the Quraysh and their allies in the Battle of the Trench and the signing of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, the Prophet Muhammad sent letters to kings and leaders in neighboring lands, inviting them to Islam. Among those who received a letter was the king of Basra. The letter was carried by the companion, Al-Harith ibn Umar al-Azdi. However, he was intercepted by Shurabil ibn Amr al-Ghassani, the governor of Al-Balqa under Roman protection, who bound him and beheaded him. It was a well-known custom among kings and tribal leaders that messengers should not be killed or harmed, as they were merely carrying messages from their people. The killing of Al-Harith ibn Umar al-Azdi was a major violation of this custom and was considered a declaration of war against the Muslims. This news was very distressing to the Prophet Muhammad, so he prepared an army of 3,000 fighters, the largest Muslim army to have been assembled before that, except for the Battle of the Trench. Why it's called a Ghazwa. The term Ghazwa is used for any battle against non-believers, whether led by the Prophet Muhammad himself or by an army he sent, even if he didn't participate. In the Battle of Mutah, the Prophet did not take part, but the command originated from him and was under his direct supervision. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar explained in his commentary on the Book of Maghazi in Sahih al-Bukhari, Al-Maghazi is the plural of Magza. It is said, Ghaza Yazu Ghazwan wa Magzan. The term al-Maghazi here refers to what happened when the Prophet intended to fight the non-believers, either by himself or by an army from his side. Preparations for the battle and the Prophet's instructions to the commanders, the Prophet Muhammad appointed Zayd ibn Harithah as the commander of this expedition, and said, if Zayd is killed, then Ja'far, and if Ja'far is killed, then Abdullah ibn Rawahah. He gave them a white banner, handing it to Zayd ibn Harithah. He instructed them to go to the place where Al-Harith ibn Umar was killed, to invite the people there to Islam, and if they accepted, all was well. Otherwise, they were to seek Allah's help against them and fight them. He told them, go forth in the name of Allah and in the path of Allah against those who disbelieve in Allah. Do not be treacherous, do not be excessive, do not kill a child, a woman, an old man, or a person isolated in a hermitage. Do not cut down palm trees or any other trees, and do not demolish buildings. The Muslim women came out to bid farewell to their husbands, saying, may Allah bring you back to us as patient ones. To this, Abdullah ibn Rawahah replied, as for me, may Allah not bring me back. Near the town of Mutah, the Muslims, numbering 3,000, stopped. Movement of the Muslim army. The Muslim army moved north until they reached Maran in the land of Sham, near the northern Hijaz. There, intelligence reached them that Heraclius had gathered 100,000 Romans at Mare B in the land of Al-Balqa, joined by another 100,000 from the tribes of Lakam, Judham, Balkain, Bara, and Bali. The advisory council at Maran, the Muslims had not anticipated facing such a massive army, a small force of just 3,000 fighters against a great army of 200,000 soldiers. They were bewildered and stayed in Maran for 2 nights, thinking and consulting with one another. They considered writing to the messenger of Allah to inform him of the enemy's numbers, so he could either send reinforcements or give them a new command. However, Abdullah ibn Rawahah opposed this view and encouraged the people, saying, O people, what you dislike is exactly what you went out seeking, martyrdom. We do not fight people with numbers, power, or a large force. We fight them only with this religion with which Allah has honored us. So, go forth, for it is one of 2 good things, either victory or martyrdom. Finally, the opinion that Abdullah ibn Rawahah advocated was adopted. Events of the battle after spending 2 nights in Maran, The Muslim army moved towards the land of the Romans until they met the armies of Heraclius near a village in Al-Balqa called Sharif. The Romans then advanced, and the Muslims withdrew to Mutiah and set up camp there for the fight. They placed Qutbah ibn Qatada al-Udri on the right flank and Ubadah ibn Malik al-Ansari on the left. Start of the fighting and the succession of commanders there in Mutiah, the two sides met, and a bitter fight began, 3,000 men facing 200,000 fighters. Zayd ibn Harithah took the banner and fought with intense ferocity until he was struck by the spears of the enemy and fell. At that point, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib took the banner and fought with unparalleled valor. When the fighting overwhelmed him, he dismounted from his mare, hamstringing it, and continued to fight until his right hand was cut off. He then took the banner with his left hand and held it until his left hand was also severed. He then hugged it with his upper arms, holding it aloft until he was killed. Al-Bukhari narrated from Nafi that Ibn Umar informed him that he stood over Ja'far that day and counted 50 stab and strike wounds, with none of them on his back. In another narration, Ibn Umar said, "I was with them in that battle, and we searched for Ja'far ibn Abi Talib and found him among the killed. We found over 90 wounds from stabs and arrows on his body." A narration from Al-Amari through Nafi adds that they found those wounds on the front of his body. When Ja'far was killed after fighting with such ferocity and bravery, Abdullah ibn Rawahah took the banner and advanced with it on his horse. He began to hesitate for a moment, then he said, "I have sworn, O self, that you will descend, whether you like it or not, or you will obey it, for I see you dislike paradise, when the people shout and the cries intensify." He then dismounted. A cousin of his brought him a piece of meat and said, "Strengthen yourself with this, for you have been through a lot these days." He took it from his hand, took one bite, then threw it away, took his sword, and advanced, fighting until he was killed. The banner to Khalid ibn al-Walid, a man from Banu Ajlan, named Thabit ibn Akram, stepped forward, took the banner, and said, "O Muslims, agree on a man among you." They said, "You," and he replied, "I am not the one to do it." So, the people agreed on Khalid ibn al-Walid. When he took the banner, he fought a fierce battle. Al-Bukhari narrated from Khalid ibn al-Walid that he said, "On the day of Mutiah, 9 swords broke in my hand, and nothing remained in my hand except a Yemeni blade." Al-Bukhari, 4266. On the day of Mutiah, the Prophet, announcing by revelation before the news reached the people from the battlefield, said, "Zayd took the banner and was struck, then Ja'far took it and was struck, then Ibn Rawahah took it and was struck, and his eyes were shedding tears, until a sword from the swords of Allah took the banner and Allah granted them victory." Al-Bukhari, 2611. End of the battle. It is remarkable that this small Muslim army succeeded in holding its ground against such a large Roman army. It was at this time that Khalid ibn al-Walid showed his skill in saving the Muslims from the predicament they were in. Accounts differ greatly on the final outcome of the battle. After examining all the narrations, it appears that Khalid ibn al-Walid succeeded in holding his ground against the Roman army throughout the first day of fighting. He devised a war tactic to instill terror in the hearts of the Romans, so he could successfully retreat with the Muslims without the Romans giving chase. He knew very well that escaping would be very difficult if the Muslims were exposed and the Romans gave chase. When the second day dawned, Khalid ibn al-Walid based his plan on psychological warfare. He ordered a number of horsemen to raise dust behind the army and to shout Allahu Akbar, God is greatest. He also changed the army's formation, putting the rear guard at the front and the right flank on the left, and so on. When the Romans saw this, they were confused and said, "Reinforcements have come for them," and they were terrified. Khalid then, after the two armies faced each other, attacked the Romans and fought them, then ordered a systematic withdrawal. He began to pull the Muslims back slowly, maintaining the army's formation. The Romans did not follow them, thinking that the Muslims were deceiving them and trying to lure them into a trap in the desert. They did not pursue Khalid in his retreat. The Romans then retreated to their lands, and the Muslims successfully retreated to Medina. Casualties: 12 Muslims were martyred. As for the Romans, 3,350 men were killed. Return of the army to Medina. Ibn Ishaq said, Muhammad ibn Ja'far ibn al-Zubayr narrated to me on the authority of Urwa ibn al-Zubayr, who said, when they approached Medina, the messenger and the Muslims came out to meet them. The children were running. The messenger was coming with the people on an animal, and he said, "Take the children and carry them, and give me the son of Ja'far." So Abdullah was brought, and he took him and carried him in front of him. The people began to throw dust on the army and say, "O deserters, you have fled from the path of Allah." The messenger of Allah said, "They are not deserters, but they are those who will return to fight, Allah willing." Ibn Ishaq also said, Abdullah ibn Abi Bakr narrated to me on the authority of Emir ibn Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, on the authority of some of the family of al-Harith ibn Hisham, who were his maternal uncles, on the authority of Salama, the wife of the Prophet, who said, Salama said to the wife of Salama ibn Hisham ibn al-Az ibn al-Mughira, "Why do I not see Salama attending the prayer with the messenger of Allah and the Muslims?" She replied, "By Allah, he cannot go out. Whenever he goes out, the people shout at him, 'O deserter, you have fled from the path of Allah,' until he has stayed in his house and does not go out." This shows that the people of Medina considered what happened a defeat, even though it was a successful withdrawal from an inevitable disaster. Impact of the battle: although the Muslims did not get the revenge they sought in this battle, it had a great effect on their reputation. It astonished all the Arab tribes, as the Byzantine Empire was the greatest and most powerful force on earth, and the Arabs thought that fighting it was tantamount to suicide. The confrontation of this small army of 3,000 fighters with that huge army of 200,000, and their return from the expedition without suffering a major loss, was a great achievement that raised the status of the emerging Islamic State. This battle was the beginning of a long series of battles between the Muslims and the Romans, which ended with the collapse of the Byzantine Empire at the hands of the Ottoman Empire with the fall of Constantinople to Muhammad II in 1453 AD. Names of the martyred companions: Zayd ibn Harithah, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, Abdullah ibn Rawahah, Masud ibn al-Aswad, Wab ibn Sad, Ubadah ibn Qays, Amr ibn Sad, al-Harith ibn al-Numan ibn Isaf, Suraka ibn Amr, Abu Kulab ibn Abi Sasar, Jabir ibn Abi Sasar, Mir ibn Sad.